This is the Used Car Dealer Podcast.
Hello, Zach here, and we have a great guest on the podcast for a second year in a row, Wendy Rinehart, who is the Executive Director of the Ohio Independent Auto Dealer Association. Wendy, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Hey, Zach, thanks for having me back. I always love talking with you.
I know, and the last episode was great, so I know this one is going to be great as well. So before we do a deep dive into the intricate world of the Ohio Independent Auto Dealer Association, let's get started. Let's get to know you a little better with two icebreakers. So the first one, do you remember the first car you owned, and what was that car?
My first car was a 1976 Chevy Monza, purchased for me by my grandfather because he felt bad that I had to ride the bus to school. And being a baby that was born on the 4th of July, all of my birthday cakes, all of my outfits, everything I ever had growing up was red, white, and blue. Stars and flags and everything. Those are three colors that I'm not fond of together. I'm very patriotic, but those colors they wore me out as a child. So my 1976 Chevy Monza was the Spirit of 76 edition with little red, white, and blue eagles on the upholstery.
That is awesome. What a car.
I'll never forget that car.
And then staying on the theme of first, describe the scene the first time you went to a used car auction for the very first time, didn't know what to expect, and went to the auction. I know for me, it was super memorable, but what were some of the thoughts, emotions that ran through your mind?
Well, I started a little differently. The first time I was at an auction was as an employee. I was the head title clerk for Manheim, Ohio. So the first time I went to an auction, I just went out as an employee and thought, wow, this is organized chaos. So it didn't really have a lot of impact on me. But then the first time I went out as a dealer, it was a Ford factory sale. So it was a closed sale. And I remember walking out in the arena with the catalog highlighted of everything I had to buy. And one of the Ford dealers ran up to me and said, hey, when you go back inside, can you check on a title for me? And I just looked at him and I'm like, no, I'm one of you now and I have no idea what I'm doing. So could you help me? And the Ford guys literally trained me on how to buy cars and what to do out there as a dealer. So the panic was definitely there.
Wow, that's a great one. And of course, as we know, the OIADA Conference is October 14th. It's just around the corner. Yes. So could you share some of the highlights and what dealers can expect from this event?
Well, this year dealers have an entire day, 12 different breakout classes, which we have wonderful speakers like yourself that are coming in from all over the country to train these guys on everything they need to know. We have things for buy here, pay here dealers, things for the retail dealers. We have compliance training, technology, everything that you could want to know. We have it there, 12 of them going on from 9:30 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon. All of the classes are there. The vendor hall is there. There's 40 plus vendors there that want to do business with independent dealers. So we'll feed them breakfast and lunch. We just need them all to come out and learn as much as possible in one day.
That's an awesome deal for the dealers. And I know last year was a great show. So really looking forward to this year. And a question about IADA. So from your perspective, let's say I'm a used car dealer. What are the core benefits of aligning myself with my state IADA, specifically OIADA?
Well, speaking just for Ohio, because other states might be different, but there's no real resource in your state to find out answers. So if you have a question on a business practice or a customer complaint, or just, what do you see happening? Having a relationship with your independent auto dealer association, that's where you're going to get the honest answers, the truthful answers. I'm pretty sure the majority of us have attorneys on retainer or on staff that can help with the legal side of everything. And that saves a dealer a ton of money.
Definitely. And the past few years, it's been a real test of resilience for many businesses, coming out of the pandemic, including used car dealers. So how has the OIADA been assisting Ohio dealers in navigating the post-pandemic kind of automotive environment?
We're trying to get the dealers to look at the future, and the future is not going to be sitting at your lot and waiting for the customer to come and look at your cars. You've got to embrace technology. We're trying to help them get to the next level of your website has to stand out. You have to be online. You have to have your online presence. You have to be able to do online deliveries. And the laws have changed here in Ohio a little bit. Maybe we'll talk about that. But it's becoming a lot easier for these guys to do online transactions.
Very true. And that leads me to my next question. So online dealers, Carvana, Vroom, they've started to become more of kind of household names. However, they've also faced their fair share of challenges, especially given, recent market pressures. What's your take on their business model and the future trajectory of these companies?
I think those companies have come in and shown all of us that there is a customer base out there that does not want to come to your dealership. They want to be able to sit in their home, have their privacy, order what they want, and have it brought to them. So I know these companies are big and they faced a lot of challenges with titles and things like that. I hope they all get them worked out. Hope customers don't get in, any kind of issues over it. But it's proven to our smaller dealers that this is a market that they're going to have to embrace if they want to stay in the game.
Definitely. And another disruptor, the electric vehicle revolution. It's a real hot topic in the industry right now. How do you foresee EV sales and the associated changes like battery warranties or charging infrastructure impacting traditional used car dealers?
Obviously, I'm not in my 20s or my 30s, so the electric vehicle just baffles me. I personally think that the hybrid was the way to go. That's the way we should have pushed for. I had a very good friend of mine tell me that Americans aren't really sure they like electric vehicles because we are Americans and we like our freedom. And the average person may only drive 30 or 40 miles a day, but they may want to get in their car and drive from Ohio to Texas. And an electric vehicle may not let them do that. So an American doesn't want to be told you can't. We want to be able to do it. Whether we ever do it or not is another story. We probably won't, but we don't want to be able to be told we can't. So I think we have a lot of people that will not embrace the EVs, but we have a big demographic of young people that are coming up that really like the idea, and I think it's going to be a good thing. I see the batteries, the repair, the wear and tear. I see it really hurting more of the lower end customer. So if you think of the buy here, pay here customer now, in 10 more years, if the electric vehicle really does make its presence the way the government wants it to, are they really going to be able to afford to have them fixed? Who's going to train the mechanics? It's scary.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially on the batteries. They only have a 10-year warranty, and just the replacement cost is often like totaling out the vehicle just to get that battery repaired.
Yeah. And I don't see service contract companies stepping up and saying we'll cover it.
Definitely not yet.
No.
We'll see. So the Ohio Independent Auto Dealer Association, under your guidance, has always been very proactive and future forward. So wanted to congratulate you on that. Are there any upcoming initiatives or projects that our listeners should be excited about coming from the OIADA?
Upcoming things right now, I'm not sure if they should be excited about them, but they should be staying tuned. The state of Ohio does a 5-year review on all of the rules that pertain to us as dealers, and 33 administrative codes that kind of govern our rules and regulations as used car dealers were up for review last year, and they couldn't get done. So they asked for an extension, and that extension is now. And all of these changes are due, I think, by the end of this week from our Bureau of Motor Vehicles. So we'll be watching to see what the BMV is trying to change or tweak or, try and do to us on these administrative changes. And once we know that, we'll be fighting them or supporting them as our industry wants us to. So they just need to be staying tuned right now for any kind of upcoming changes. And then I will announce this in November because I don't want to tell dealers too early because then they get all excited. But starting in 2024, the federal government is going to have us all doing our 8,300 forms online instead of by paper. So I'll send out all the directions and everything about that in November when we get closer to the end of the year, because it doesn't happen until 2024.
Got it. And before we wrap up, Wendy, is there any other exciting news updates you'd like to share with our audience, whether that's related to OIADA or something personal you're passionate about?
I'm passionate about animals. I know that's weird being a car girl. So if you're going to get an animal, go to a shelter. Don't buy from a pet store. Spay and neuter your animals, all that fun stuff. But the association just needs dealer feedback. I am excited about anytime a dealer calls us and says, this is something that is bothering me that I wish we could change. I may not be able to change it, but it goes in my head. And anytime I get the opportunity to fight it or do something about it, I do. So I just need dealer feedback. We're always looking for young, innovative dealers with great new ideas. So if anybody has a passion to serve on a board, we always look for board members. We would love to hear from them.
Awesome. Well, Wendy, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today. And for everyone listening, if you're in Ohio, if you're an Ohio dealer, October 14th, that is the date for the annual expo.
And it is at the Nationwide Hotel and Conference Center in Lewis Center, Ohio. And admission for the dealer is free. I just need them to register in advance so I have the right head count for food.
Awesome, Wendy. Well, thanks again for joining us today. And that's another episode of the Used Car Dealer Podcast.
Thanks, Zach.